Hello and welcome to the channel and welcome to another LSB film podcast. I hope everyone's well today. Right, this podcast is quite an exciting podcast for me because I've been wanting this podcast for about 2 years since I knew what Bob was doing. And if you follow the channel, of course you know who I'm talking about, Bob Seys. And Bob Seys has been putting his money where his mouth is for some time now actually. With water, with council tax, and today's show is going to be focused on the good old council tax and his journey from start to up to this point. I hope you learn from this, I hope you enjoy this, and let's get straight into it.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Bob, welcome.
We're recording.
We're recording.
Shit. It's taken a long time to get here, isn't it?
How long has it been?
I think 2 years or 3 years you've been asking me for a chat.
Interview. Yeah. So,
But the thing is, I didn't want to jump the gun without any sort of good news. Because it's all right, shouting it from the rooftops, but unless you've experienced it yourself,
they're just words.
That's it. That doesn't mean anything. But I've reached a point now where I think, yeah, I've got something to tell. So.
Well, we are all looking forward to hearing this. You've just listened to the introduction, so yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. So blimey. I mean, how far back do you want to go?
Well, I usually find the beginning is quite a good place to start.
Oh, right. Well, we're back to the mid-'80s then.
Oh, well, maybe not quite that far. Kind of just, well, yeah, I suppose why you started it,
yeah.
Maybe.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, the mistrust of the people that are supposedly running us and governing us began back in the early 80s with the Falklands and more particularly the miners' strike. And the reason I reference the miners' strike is because I now, in hindsight, see that as the precursor to the dismantling of organised dissent in the lead up to what we're seeing now. You know, the unions were strong back then, and there were people that I had knowledge of at the time that were supporting the miners. So then basically everyone goes back to sleep after that, and life carries on, and you get hit with the massive percentage rises in mortgages and what have you, and we battled through that. And you just get on with life, don't you? You just crack on with life and pay your bills, but you always know deep in the back of your mind that you're being shafted. You're being royally shafted. And I mean that.
Financially raped.
Yeah, financially raped, good way of putting it. In the lead up to sort of end of 2019, 2020, you start to think, I mean, I'm a big lover of history. And in discovering that history has mainly been a lie, you start to smell a rat when the government start to put out certain pieces of information. And then with the historical knowledge, you think, well, I've heard this before, I've seen this before. And that was my... oh shit, they're going to do it. They're going to actually try this. Or they're doing it now. And I never thought they would try what they would try in my lifetime. So I'm referering to one of the biggest scams in history.
2020 era.
Yes. Got to watch what we say.
I've already said raped. Oh, that's twice.
So I smelt the rat, and off I went down the rabbit hole. And as it's all coming out now, the rabbit hole is no longer down the rabbit hole, so to speak. It's more like
an entrance to a tunnel.
That's it. It's coming out in the open. There's a hell of a lot of disclosure now on the fact that everybody was fibbed to. But of course, that opens up further avenues. We went down the route of law and history and old world technologies and what they're spraying in the skies, and it opens up. What we found is that you can't focus on one subject without relating to another 20.
Well, it's a bit like the famous granddad of conspiracy theorists has always said. It's about connecting the dots.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you do have to go off into a spider's web of information to come back to the original subject matter. But that obviously led us down the route of law and legislation, and then you start to discover natural law and the like, and then you find out that the whole system we're living under is actually a manufactured system of, as you say, raping you financially. And you can bleep that out. So that led me down to the reason I wanted to speak is that I started seeing stuff online where people were saying about the council tax being a fraudulent, unlawful, an unlawful, not illegal, unlawful, an unlawful tax. You know, when you speak to people, they always say, "Oh, bloody price of that! £1,500 a year, £2,000 a year to have my bins emptied," and it starts to, you start to ask questions. So I started to ask questions of my local council, about obligation and contracts and stuff like that. And what I found is that the response you got from them was zilch. They'd come back to you with the Local Government Finance Act 1992, and basically the response is, pay it, just pay it. Shut up, we don't care about your concerns, just pay it. And then they send you a little pie chart, with this big section that says other, and they don't actually tell you what other is.
Guns, trafficking.
Well, that's a route that I did go down. But and the long and the short of it is they still never revealed the full extent of where your money goes. So I started to do even more digging. I haven't actually got this in my folder, but I had it through good authority that all of your authority, Christ, the blight of our lives. That your council tax money goes to central government into a big pot, and then our local councils get about 30% of it back, something like that, whatever it was. And so it started making me think, where the hell does this other 70% go? And as you just said, Chris, when you start to think about it, you've got our government tied up in what's going on in the Ukraine and Gaza and countless other places around the world. As my father-in-law said, the British taught the world how to cheat. Yeah. And so I started questioning the moral aspect of paying these people money. I never refused to pay them. I simply withheld, pending the honest answers to some pretty challenging questions. And they went down the route of the Modern Slavery Act. Does one man have the right to impose his will on another? And who is actually trying to impose their will on me? When you look at, say, my local council and all councils, they're all private companies. Every single one of them is a private company, and they're registered on Dun & Bradstreet. I've got a folder full of private company numbers there, whether it be police stations, courts, everything. So then you think, well, hang about, these are private companies, and I'm just me. I'm just Bob. If you're involved in commerce as a company, there must be contracts. So, but when you ask them about contracts and what have you, they ignore that again. Oh, it's the Local Government Act 1992. So then I came across the word tacit agreement, and I thought, well, tacit agreement, by staying silent, you've agreed to it. Where's the honour in that? Where's the deal? Where's the agreement? Where's the meeting of the minds? This is the service I require from you, and how much is it going to cost me? And it made me question even more the moral grounds and the fact that what you've got. I did actually make a video called "Would You Buy the Burger?" And what they're doing is they're bringing a product to your door, and a lot of those products we do use, and I don't mind paying for products that I use, but they're bringing a product to your door, and they're saying, if you don't pay me, we're going to send the heavies in. That's wrong. That's wrong on every single level, whether it be your water or whatever service. You know,
just for example, right? Because we've got a fairly nice sized garden with a lot of shrubbery in it. We've got a garden waste bin.
Yeah.
Well, to have that for the year, that's about £60.
Yeah.
So if you times that by 3 with the other, or another 2 with the other bins,
Yeah.
that's still way off.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
if you have a break in, the police don't come and get a crime number, unless you've done a naughty on Facebook.
Yeah.
Then it's knock, knock, knock at 3 o'clock in the morning. But other than that, you don't really have a police service.
No.
I'm sure you still have the fire service, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
And an ambulance service, even though it takes you quickly from your home to then wait in a waiting room corridor for maybe 14 hours.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
again, you're still not getting your money's worth.
That's it. I mean, like you say, you brought up the police there. They say, an element of it goes to the police. Well, the police come out of our taxes anyway, don't they? So why are they doubling up on through another form of taxation? And it got really sort of in my digging, I ended up getting told through the post, right, unless you pay up, we're going to start sending you to court and all this sort of stuff, and then you get your personal details sent to a third party interloper, which is breaking their own regulations. And that's what we've discovered, is that all of the tools that we've got to question these people and attack these people is actually in their own legislation. They're breaking their own rules and then sending the heavies in to try and extract money from you without any kind of explanation as to where the money's going. Now, we know that the government are involved in, like I was saying earlier, what goes on in Gaza. And there was a guy recently, there were 600 flights flew over there, like reconnaissance missions. We know that they're involved in arms and weaponry and the like. And that was the same in the Ukraine, one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. And our government are sending money over there. That's another huge rabbit hole that we don't want to go down at the moment. But basically, they're siphoning money from us all the time. I ended up contacting our local one, is the Anglian Revenues Partnership, and I actually ended up talking to a guy on the phone. And it didn't matter what information I put across or how much clarification I was asking for. It was just pay your money. Pay your money, pay your money.
That's because they're not educated enough to answer that question.
That's very true. That's very true. They knew nothing about the legislation, and I mean, like the Local Government Act of 1888. All the duties and liabilities are actually the obligation of the council to provide services. They don't look back into primary legislation or primary law. I hate talking about legislation because it's been overlaid across the top of what's actually lawful. I go back to no man has the right to impose his will on another. So I ended up talking to these people, Anglian Revenues Partnership, the local council, and what have you, and you get ignored. Anyway, it reached a point where I was, like I say, the Modern Slavery Act, I went down the Nuremberg Code, human rights, and all sorts of stuff, like proper good official documentation that should make them question what they're doing. But then when you find out they're actually private businesses, they don't really care. They claim to be public and a public service, but they're actually there for profit. Mm-hmm. And that was one massive thing that I uncovered. I thought, when they kept coming back and saying, no, all of your money goes to fund public services, I thought there's got to be more to this, because they weren't admitting anything. I now realise in hindsight they'll never admit to anything. The best you'll get is silence. But I started to look into their financial stuff, and I found out that this private company that openly says we use your money had actually got their own housing company as well, called Barley Homes. And the amount of money this private company was making was unbelievable. It was something like £1 million they paid in taxes or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. So they've openly said that we're using your money to fund this private company, which has the knock-on effect that they've paid tax to the government. The government are building bombs and weapons and so on and so on. They are using your money indirectly to provide the government with the stuff that I don't want them to do with my money. So that went. Then I started to get really quite serious on it, I started sending legal notices. I didn't know at the time. If you write a letter, they'll just stick it in the bin and it's gone. It disappears. But if you're writing notices, they carry more weight, and under their 7 Nolan principles of public office, they have to respond. They have a duty to reply to the documentation you're sending. So there was a series of a notice of interest, and then when they ignored it, a reminder and a notice of default and an opportunity to cure. And then when that was ignored, a notice of default, and then when that was ignored, a notice of estoppel by acquiescence. And that really should put a line under the dealings with that individual, but then you'd get attacked by someone else. One other before I go any further, the one thing that really made me laugh was how Anglia Revenue's partnership, you'd write in and you'd say, I want questions answered, blah 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 blah, and they'd reply back with a template letter saying, we do not recognise template letters. But they would send you back a template letter about free man on the land and all this rubbish. Well, at the time, I never knew anything about the free man on the land stuff. So it wasn't about that. But what made me laugh is they're sending you templates when they don't accept templates. And I also discovered that there were names. There were odd names. They were like a Ms. S or a Mr. B. You know, there were no solid names, no full names. And when you inquired about these full names and who am I actually speaking to, you'd get a reply from somebody completely different again. So then I challenged them on the fact that I thought they were making these names up. And at that point, they went silent. They stopped replying with these odd names. So it makes you wonder, are they making these names up? But
the best thing to do would be to phone.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice
Well, I know one of them was real because I did speak to him on the phone. But after I started sending notices in, he ignored me. So these notices I started sending to the CEOs of these and the bosses of these private companies that are registered on Dun & Bradstreet. And they were all ignored. In the end, I ended up writing to the Section 151 officer, who's the guy that runs the GDPR, the data protection people, employees that had contacted me, the CEOs, and all ignored. So I'm now landed with another summons to court. And now the previous year I just ignored it because we've all discovered that the documents they send are printed by the council. They're acting as a court when they're not.
It's a little bit like impersonating a police officer.
Absolutely, yeah.
But they're impersonating a magistrate's court.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've discovered it's the common law crime of uttering. So what they're doing is producing documents that they claim to be from a court and they're not. So second time round, I got this and I thought I'm gonna go along and have a look, because I'd seen these stories about how fake the whole thing is, but I just wanted to experience it for myself. And the reason I was going is because of these 24 notices that I'd put in and they were all ignored. Did a subject access request. I wanted all of my data back from the council and Anglia Revenue's partnership. And I got dribs and drabs back, stuff that I knew I had in this file. That's my big thick file. That's all council stuff. All right. So I started getting back dribs and drabs of documents, and then I'd have to say, no, you haven't included all of it. I want more, and you haven't included it, and it just went backwards and forwards. And so the subject access request, they would not send these 24 documents. They kept denying that they'd ever received these documents from me. So I ended up threatening them with the Information Commissioner's Office and private prosecution against each and every one of them. And all of a sudden, these documents turned up. These documents that they've been claiming for months that they never had.
Was this being sent by mail or email?
No, they've been sent by mail. I do absolutely everything by mail. Signed for, registered post, and I've got the receipts to prove it. I don't do anything that can be deleted. Everything's got to be hard copy. So anyway, this envelope full of documents turned up that they'd claimed they'd never received. Now some of them are still missing, but that's by the by. What they've done now is they've been caught with their pants down, so to speak, because what they've stepped into is it misfeasance in public office. They've had a duty to respond to my documents, and have been denying that they ever existed or they ever received them, when I know I've got the receipts in here that prove they did receive them.
Is there a difference between a duty and a legal requirement?
Well, the thing is, these guys, because of the roles they're in, they do have duties and obligations. We have rights.
Yeah.
We have rights. They have duties and obligations. And if they want to be in that world that they're in, they have to abide by those duties and obligations.
Okay.
There's no two ways about it. So you can look at it as twofold, really. It's a two. They've got a foot in both camps, haven't they? They're claiming to be public, which means they have got a duty of care to you. But we also know they're a private company. So if they put their foot in that world, then they don't have a duty to acknowledge you.
It's about the bottom line.
Exactly. And this is what I've found with all of these people, that they operate under a public act, but they're actually a private business. So they hide behind that one to avoid that one, but then claim they're that one if they don't want to tell you about that one. It's dodgy as. So anyway, I've received this summons, and I thought, right, this time I'm going to go along. So I've rocked up at the my local magistrates court, and
Ipswich?
no, it's Bury St Edmunds.
Oh, is it Bury?
Yeah, Bury St Edmunds. Yeah, the others are being passed around. I'm not challenging just the council. I'm challenging other stuff as well, and the other stuff, it's like they almost don't want me to go into court because I've got so much. So anyway, I've rocked up at the Bury Magistrates Court, and I've handed this piece of paper. And this piece of paper says that I need to turn up here at 10 o'clock today. I don't know what it's about, but anyway, so they looked at this piece of paper, and they said, "Oh, you're not on the court listings for today." And I said, "Really? That's strange. That's odd." So they said, "Let me go and find out." So they came back and they said, "Oh, you must be here for council tax." And I said, "Oh, I must be that then." So off they went, and they went and chatted to the usher of the court. And the usher, I went into the waiting area and met the usher, and the usher said, "Oh, you're not on the court listings for today." And I said, "Funny that." I said, "Because this is the beginnings of what I thought might happen." He said, "You must be here for council tax." Oh, that must be it. I must be here for council tax. He said, "I'll go and have a chat with the ladies from the council." Now, for those that don't know, the council rent a room within the council building so that they can put the court address on their paperwork.
With the magistrates building.
This is the magistrates building, yeah, not the court. It's not an official court, actually, is it? It's a building of business. So they're basically hiring the address, so to speak, and then printing up these documents on their own software and passing them off as court documents. So anyway, this usher's gone in to meet the two ladies from the council, and he's come out again, and he said, "This is really odd. Would you like to see a magistrate?" And I said, "Well, that's a strange question." I said, "Because I've apparently received this summons that makes me think I'm going to go before a magistrate." And he went, "Oh no, you can choose." So now I'm like, whoa, I've seen this happen on video, but to experience it yourself was something else. "No, you can choose." And I said, "Well, I'm not choosing." I said, "Because you've brought me here. You've invited me to your building of business. You're going to choose whether I go before a magistrate or not." He said, "Hang on, I'll go and have a chat." And he's gone and had a chat with his two council ladies, and then he's called me in. He said, "Come and have a word with them." And as I've gone into the room, they said, "Oh, you've come to set up a payment plan." And I said, "No, I haven't come here for a payment plan. I've been summoned here to go before a magistrate, apparently." I said, but the reason I'm here is because I'm withholding my payments until I get responses to certain questions that you haven't answered. And I said, I've also got 24 legal documents that you claim to have not received, and you have. So this is why I'm here. And I said, anyway, I said, who's bringing the claim against me? She said, West Suffolk Council. I said, West Suffolk Council's a building. How can a building make a claim against me? I said, I want the name of the man or the woman within that building that claims I owe them money, and the name of the man or the woman that has called me to this building. I'm not having this. And off she stormed. She stormed out. She's gone to get the security guards, and the guards have come along. Come on, out you go, out, out, out. And I said, are you evicting me? And they said, we don't know. Because nobody knew what to do, which is it's laughable, isn't it, when you think about it? So anyway, I've gone back to the foyer, and I've had a really nice chat with the security guards over about 15 minutes. One of them I taught how to drive, which was quite strange. I'd actually forgotten about him. But a cracking guy. He's actually a pastor, which I later found out. So we've been chatting about law and legislation and grammatical fraud and the all caps name and all this kind of blah, blah, blah. And then another security guard's come out and said to me, would you like to see a magistrate? So, and I said, hang on, well, I've just been through all this before. You've got to decide. I said to them, I don't come to places like this. I'm a good man. I don't belong here, but you've brought me here. You're deciding. Anyway, so he's gone away. He's come back, and he said, the magistrate said he would like to see you. And I thought, brilliant. This is exactly where I wanted to be. So I've gone in, and then it got really surreal. One of the ladies from the council, I overheard her saying to the magistrate, there was 3 magistrates, the middle one, I'm ever so sorry, sir. I'm completely unprepared. I didn't know he was going to turn up. Then it moved across to the clerk of the court. The clerk of the court started to read out my all caps name and said he is one of 617 on the council tax listing today. 617. Now that was at 75 quid a head court fees. So you're talking 40 odd grand, 46 grand, whatever it was. So she's referring to me in my all caps name, and I'm like, whoa, hang on, stop. You need to refer to me as Bob. I just like to be called Bob. So then they'd say something else and refer to my all caps name again. No, hang on, whoa, stop. You need to call me Bob. I just want to be called Bob. Agreed. Okay, that's agreed. The magistrate said, right, would you like to speak? And I said, yes, please. But first, I need to ask you some questions. And he said, that's fine. I said to him, can I take your names? No. And I thought, firstly, how rude. Now, when I was looking into the magistrate's rules, at that point in time, they didn't need to give their names, but apparently they do now. But they just said no. And I said, that's really rude. I said, I've been pulled into this building. I'm in a room full of people that I don't know. And just out of common courtesy, I would like to know who I'm speaking to. And the clerk of the court turned around and said, you are not obliged to give your name. So that's what he said. I'm not obliged to give my name. So, yes, exactly, yeah. And so then he said, right, is there anything else you would like to ask? Because that will die down a bit, you know. Anything else you'd like to ask? Now, I was carrying with me an English Oxford dictionary and a Black's Law dictionary, just the pocketbook versions. And I held them both up, and I said to him, which language are we going to be speaking today? And he said, we are speaking English. And I said, great. I said, so can I take it that we're in a common law court? He said to me, there is nobody on the bench that is qualified to answer that question. Right? My jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So there's this guy with this magistrate, 3 magistrates on a bench. They are not qualified to answer a question about jurisdiction or legality or anything like that, and they're about to pass judgment on as to whether I'm liable to this debt that's due or past due or whatever. And then I was gobsmacked. But what really gobsmacked me was the clerk of the court. She turned round to the magistrate, and I shit you not, she said to the magistrate, if this line of questioning continues, may I suggest that we grant the liability order against him and we mark him as absent from the court. I went nuts. I'm in the middle of this courtroom. I'm waving my arms around going, hello, there's a man in the room, can you not see me, hello? I was going ballistic, bananas. So that caused a bit of a stir. So while I was doing my ranting and raving, I said to the magistrate, there's another question I want to ask you. Have you sworn your 2 oaths? And he said, I have not sworn 2 oaths, I've sworn 1. I said, and who's that oath been sworn to? He said, was it king and country and the government? And I said to him...
Isn't that like an oxymoron?
Yeah, exactly, because they're meant to be separate, aren't they? But that's what he said to me, king and country and the government. And I said to him, well, the government is surely is an arm of the United Kingdom Corporation Limited, registered on Dun & Bradstreet. And I had the number in there. Didn't even get to show the number. All magistrates just stood up, shut their books and walked out of the court. And they just walked out.
And you've not heard anything since?
And I've heard nothing since. That's been 5 weeks now. And I haven't heard a peep. I've put a complaint into the court. I want to know, is this usual practice? Is this standard procedure that if they're asked a question that they don't want to answer, they just leave? And I'm really concerned about the clerk of the court, because the way I look at it, and I've got their case law, it's not my case law, it's their case law, that about falsifying court documents and stuff like that, to actually say openly, we'll serve him with the liability order and mark him as absent from the court. There's got to be something wrong in that, hasn't there?
That's a little bit shady.
Absolutely. So I've sent this complaint into the court, and once again, I've done it as a notice of interest.
So not a complaint?
Well, it's a multi-layered document, actually. It's a complaint to the court. Okay. It's a freedom of information. And I can't remember the other part of it.
DSAR.
But
well, the reason why I say that is because,
it
according to, depending on who you listen to, we don't make complaints.
No, we don't. No, which is why I multi-layered it.
Right, okay.
But
just covering that aspect.
No, that's
what
it.
I'm doing.
Yeah. So here you go: notice of interest, official complaint, and freedom of information request. So basically what I want to know from this thing that I've sent into the court is who actually printed the documents, who posted the documents. If the council have been printing documents that they shouldn't have been, who do I report them to? The common law crime of uttering. Who do I actually report these to? So that's where we're at with that. I think the other thing that might have sort of thrown them, I've just noticed it on the top of my pile there, is that I opened my question in words with that I'm Bob, I'm Robert, and I am here by special appearance under Chancery. I'm here under equity. Is it right or is it wrong? I'm not here under any jurisdiction or anything. I'm just here because I've been invited here, and we just want to talk about what's right and wrong. And that's really powerful. What jurisdiction are we under today? Obviously none, because they didn't know. And and you're here by special appearance under Chancery. Yeah, they can't deal with it. I've discovered from what happened to me in that room is that they can't deal with a man. They can't deal with Bob.
They can't deal with flesh.
No, they can't deal with it. All they can deal with is the piece of paper that you think you are. And unless you acknowledge that piece of paper, you don't exist in their world.
So it's very much the same principle that a police can't technically do you if he hasn't got a name and an address or a birthday.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the courts, but by ignoring that bit of paper that claims to be you.
Yeah. That's it. And that was, and going along that, all of my stuff is my name isn't the name that they type onto their paper. It's just Robert, me, the man.
No, that's
Yeah.
not. Well, thank you for sharing that. I very much appreciate that.
I'll do another one on grammatical fraud if you want.
Yes.
Well, that's the other thing about the summonses. When you actually when you read the document, not look at it, read it. There's so much grammatical fraud in there that that your name isn't actually on the page anyway.
No.
So,
No.
But that's another deep rabbit hole.
No, it is. Well, I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed it. Please leave comments in the video. Please leave your comments below. And until next time, look after yourselves and speak to you all again soon. Bye for now.